Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my podcast. This is Rochelle Gordon with Bliss Tea and Treats. Oftentimes, my guests will ask me, what is my favorite kind of tea? That's a very difficult question to answer because there are so many teas that I love. But I think what people really want to understand is if I gravitate to any particular tea. Why don't I start with the 6 types of teas? You have a white tea, a yellow tea. Both of those tend to be very mild in flavor. They're minimally processed, so therefore they have a higher concentration of antioxidants. Some people like white tea because they feel like it's the most organic, but that's not necessarily true. It's just processed differently. If you think about the fact that tea is very similar to wine. So in wine, you have grapes, and those grapes are processed in order to create your white wine, your red wine, your Merlot, etc. In tea, you have very similar process. So we start with the Camellia sinensis plant. This plant actually is grown around the world, but it thrives in certain climates, elevation, so forth. So based on the soil quality, the amount of elevation, so forth, that will actually have an effect on the flavor of the tea. What we want to talk about today, though, is how that one plant can impact the flavor of so many different teas. So we have this Camellia sinensis plant, minimally processed. You get white and yellow tea. From this plant, though, regardless if it's a white, a green, a oolong, a black, it's going to give you several benefits. Those benefits will include antioxidants, boost of the immune system, support for heart health, aid in weight loss, anti-aging, support oral health, low risk of cancer, relaxation and mental clarity. Those things are naturally occurring in all types of tea because it's a part of the Camellia sinensis plant, the benefits of the Camellia sinensis. Regardless of what happens with the way the plant is processed, these benefits are naturally going to show up. However, what I found in my research is that because of the way the oxidation happens, there are some teas that have very unique benefits than others, right? So you might have a green tea that is unoxidized. And what does that mean? It means if you think about vegetables and how you cook vegetables, if you just steam them, right, you still have the nice green leaves, right? Just like broccoli. If you just steam it, the broccoli is still green. If you overcook it, broccoli is then brown. Same thing happens with the Camellia sinensis plant. Green tea remains green because it's unoxidized. It maintains its color. One of the things that's unique to green tea is that it helps to regulate blood sugar. You might find that liver health is benefited because of green tea. Anti-inflammatory. People often come in and they say, hey, I need something for inflammation. What can you recommend that's anti-inflammatory? Well, green tea is a good place to start. We also recommend turmeric as a great place to start for anti-inflammatory. Black tea, on the other hand, is fully oxidized, which means, back to the vegetable example, if you roast it, it's going to go from green Camellia sinensis to now black Camellia sinensis because now you have fully cooked this tea. So if you think about almost like a frying pan, but it's not fried like we know fried with like grease and so forth. Black tea is more, think of it as being roasted. So that's how you get a fully oxidized tea. It's really good for heart, digestion, energy because the caffeine level is highest when it's fully oxidized. Immune support, bone health. I personally only drink black tea in the mornings because of the caffeine level. Green tea, you can kind of get away with green tea almost throughout the day because the caffeine level is not as high. However, if you drink gunpowder, because it's rolled, you will have a higher level of caffeine in gunpowder than in a typical green tea. I personally drank gunpowder every morning during the pandemic, and that's because I really needed the energy boost, and I also needed my spirit to be lifted to get through the pandemic, starting a new business. It was just essential. Every morning I woke up and I had a cup of gunpowder. As things kind of eased up, I did not drink as much gunpowder, but when we did do a blend for depression, we made sure to include gunpowder because we know that it does an amazing job of lifting your spirits. So back to the black teas. A very similar tea that you will think it's a black tea, but it's actually not, is oolong. And oolong is one of those 6 teas that we talked about. So you have your green, you have your yellow, you have your white, and you have black. Oolong is partially oxidized. I personally have never had a bad cup of oolong tea. However, with oolong, I don't like anything blended in there. I like it to be as pure as possible. No added flavoring, no sugar, no honey, nothing. I really just like my oolong plain and hot. The last tea is a pu'er. I personally love pu'er, but I recognize that it's also an acquired taste. A lot of people are not as familiar with pu'er because, quite frankly, it is kind of a hidden gem. And the reason why I say that is because in China, pu'er has been somewhat of a secret for many, many years. Here's the reason why. It was used as a sign of wealth. So the way pu'er is processed is very different than all of the other teas. It is a fermented tea. It is packed in a cake and is stored away and is aged. So the older the pu'er, the better. So in China, they would use this as a sign of wealth. They would pull out the best pu'er for their favorite guests. So if you went to a home in China and they gave you a cup of pu'er, that really meant that they were kind of showing off, right? They were really trying to show you that they were established and had something to offer. So one of the things that was kept a secret from the rest of the world is how their pu'er was processed. They did not share this for many, many years. Now that the secret is out and pu'er is globally available, more people are able to enjoy it. But for many years, no one knew how to process pu'er. So pu'er you can find with additive flavors. For example, for a long time we've sold a coconut pu'er, and I'm actually moving away from that because I really believe that just an authentic pu'er is so much better and people can really appreciate the flavor more. So we're moving in that direction. But the benefits of pu'er is quite amazing. And I think people, when they get a hold of this is really going to help a lot of people that struggle with cholesterol management. Pu'er drank on a regular basis will lower LDL levels, therefore producing better heart health. If you have pu'er when you are eating fatty foods, greasy foods, it will reduce fat absorption. So if you go to any Asian country and they serve you a cup of tea before or after a meal, it's really to help you digest that food. So when you go to a Chinese restaurant and you have a cup of tea, regardless of what kind of tea it is, the goal is really to help you your body be able to process the food that you're consuming. Pu'er specifically, though, will reduce the fat absorption. It will also help with cardiovascular. There are flavonoids and other compounds that improve your blood circulation. So if you tend to have some fatty foods, you want to make sure that you are accompanying that with a cup of pu'er. Okay, so always have that handy. And quite frankly, there's nothing wrong with drinking pu'er when you work out because it will help you cardiovascularly. So I think that, there are some interesting benefits that transcend across all tea types. But me personally, my favorite that I'm gravitating to right now is an oolong. I'm having a lot more oolong in the morning. It's waking me up nicely. It's not aggressive. It's not a lot of caffeine. And then pu'er. I'm just always in love with the flavor of pu'er. I always feel like it's such a unique flavor. It's an acquired taste, and when you get to appreciate it, I don't think there's anything like it. So if you're able to really appreciate the different kinds of teas when you go somewhere and you have a good one, then you can say, oh yeah, this is a really good pu'er, or this is a really good oolong. So many of us are exposed to green teas. So many of us are exposed to black teas. And I think one of the things that I really want to highlight is to step outside of your comfort zone and give yourself an opportunity to try different teas, because you'll start to develop a palette of really identifying and understanding and appreciating the teas that are served to you. And then you'll even be able to appreciate some of the more unique teas that we'll talk about later in this podcast. Thank you for joining and have a wonderful day.